If you're not actually ready to change your habits, your thinking, and the way you spend your time, stop watching right now. Because this is where most people hit a wall. Okay? They say they want a better life, more money, and more freedom, more control. But when it comes time to actually change the behavior, that keeps them stuck. They hesitate, they delay, and they default back to what's comfortable. And that gap between what you say and what you say you want and what you actually do is the reason nothing ever changes. So this isn't motivation, this is a reality check about what it actually takes to shift your life in a meaningful way and why most people they never follow through even when they know exactly what they should be doing. The first thing you need to understand is that change is not an event, it's a process. And more importantly, it's an uncomfortable process. Because if it felt natural and easy, you would have already done it. And the resistance you feel is the signal that you're moving in the right direction. But most people misinterpret that, and resistance is a sign to stop. They think something is wrong when it gets hard, when in reality, difficulty is part of the transition from who you are now to who you need to become. And the second reality is that information is not your problem. You already know more than enough to improve your life. You know you should manage your money better. You know you should be more consistent. You know you should stop wasting time on things that don't move you forward. And the issue isn't knowledge, it's execution. And execution requires discipline, not excitement, which is why motivation fades so quickly. It's based on emotion, and emotions are temporary. Discipline is what carries you when motivation just disappears. Another reason people don't change is because they underestimate the cost, not financially, but mentally and emotionally. Change requires you to let go of certain habits, routines, and sometimes even relationships that reinforce your current lifestyle. And that's uncomfortable because being familiar with something feels safe even when it's holding you back. So people stay where they are not because it's good, but because it's unknown or known. And stepping into the unknown creates uncertainty that most people try to avoid. There's also the issue of identity because lasting change doesn't come from doing different things occasionally. It comes from becoming a different kind of person consistently. And that shift in identity is where most people struggle. They try to force new habits onto old mindsets. And it doesn't stick because their actions don't align with how they see themselves. So if you see yourself as someone who procrastinates, who lacks discipline, who never follows through, your behavior will eventually match the belief, no matter how motivated you feel in the moment. Time is another factor, too. Now, people don't completely misunderstand. They do. They completely misunderstand it because the real change takes longer than you expect, but less time than you think. If you stay consistent, the problem is most people during the phase where results are not yet visible. They put in an effort for a few days or weeks and they don't see immediate progress and assume it's not working. But what they don't realize is that the progress is happening below the surface. Habits are forming, systems are being built, and the results are compounding slowly before they become obvious. And if you quit too early, you reset the entire process. Another reason you might not change is because you're too comfortable. Not necessarily in a good situation, but comfortable enough to tolerate it. And that's one of the most dangerous positions to be in because there's no urgency. There's no pressure forcing you to act, so you keep putting things off. Telling yourself you'll start later, and later turns into weeks, months, or even years. And nothing changes because the discomfort isn't strong enough to push you forward. Fear also is a bigger role than most people admit to. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of success, because success brings its own responsibilities and expectations. And those fears can keep you stuck in places even when you know staying where you are is costing you more in the long run. And the only way through this action is not overthinking, not waiting for confidence, but waiting steps despite the uncertainty. Another major issue is inconsistency because change doesn't come from what you do occasionally. It comes from what you do repeatedly. And most people are inconsistent. They go all in for a short period, they burn out, and then they do nothing. And that cycle is the worst than steady, moderate effort because it creates the illusion of progress without building the momentum. Consistency is what compounds results, not intensity. And environment is another factor that either supports or sabotages your efforts because you're surrounded by distractions, the negative influences, or systems that make it easy to fall back into old habits. You're constantly fighting against your surroundings that makes changes much harder than it needs to be. And sometimes the fastest way to change your behavior is to change your environment. So that's the right action becomes easier and that the wrong one becomes harder. There's also a problem of overcomplicating everything because people think they need the perfect plan, the perfect timing, the perfect conditions before they start. And that perfectionism leads to inaction because nothing is ever perfect. And waiting for ideal circumstances is just another way of avoiding the discomfort of starting progress and comes from taking imperfect action and adjusting as you go, not from waiting until everything is figured out. Another reason people don't change is because they don't track anything. They rely on feelings instead of data, and feelings are unreliable. You might feel like you're making progress when you're not, or feel like you're failing when you're actually improving. Tracking your actions and results give you objective feedback that helps you stay on course and makes better decisions over time. Accountability is another missing piece because when no one is watching, it's easy to cut corners, skip steps, and justify bad decisions. But when you have some form of accountability, whether it's a person, a system, or even public commitment, you're more likely to follow through because there's a consequence to not doing what you said you would do. And one of the biggest mindset shifts you need to make is understanding that you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fail to the level of your system. And if your daily system doesn't support your goals, you will never consistently achieve them. So instead of focusing only on outcomes, focus on building systems that make the right actions automatic, because that's what creates sustainable change over time. Another important point is the change that requires sacrifice. You can't keep doing everything you're currently doing and expect a different result. Something has to go, whether it's time spent on distractions, habits that don't serve you, or activities that don't align with your goals. That trade off is where a lot of people hesitate because they want improvement without giving anything up. And that's not how it works. So, what does it actually look like to be ready to change? It means you're willing to act even when you don't feel like it. You're willing to be uncomfortable. You're willing to be consistent without immediate rewards. You're willing to take responsibility of your results instead of blaming circumstances. Because at the end of the day, change is a choice that has to be made repeatedly, not just once. And the people who succeed are the ones who feel the most motivated. They're the ones who continue when motivation fades, who stick to their systems, who adjust when things don't work, and who keep moving forward even when the progress feels slow. And that's the difference between temporary improvement and lasting transformation. So if you're still watching, ask yourself honestly if you're ready to do those things. Not just say you are, but actually follow through. Because if you are, you don't need more information. You need action. And if you're not, that's fine too. But at least be honest about it. Because nothing changes until you do. And the moment you decide to act consistently in alignment with your goals is the moment your trajectory starts to shift. Not instantly, not dramatically, at first, but steadily over time. And that steady change is what builds a different future. One decision, one action, and one day at a time. And if you commit to that process, you'll eventually look back and realize that the biggest difference wasn't a single breakthrough moment. It was the accumulation of small decisions that you chose to follow through on when it would have been easier not to. Thanks for watching today. And if you found value in today's video, please subscribe. Without you, I can't grow this channel, and I'd love to see you back someday. Also, comment down below. If it's a positive comment, I always try to respond to positive comments. If it's negative, don't waste my time and don't waste yours because it's not going to show up there after a while because I'll just remove it. Thanks for watching. Also, check out this video on the right. It could also help you on your journey too. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a good day.